Welcome back to Line, Cordage, and Knot Crafting. Today we're in the garden. We have longer sets of line so we can get a little bit better picture and some context, which is why I started all this. First thing I want to talk about is in whatever condition that your line is in, you're going to need to coil it. If you already read the initial video on having a book, having a plan or a strategy for what you're going to do with your rope, and choosing the core to line, you should already have done that. So let's go forward with coiling. First step in coiling is to look at the line. If you look down at these lines, you'll see that they're quite different. They're different sizes and different construction. One of the things that matters in coiling is whether or not the rope has been laid left hand or right hand. That's important because it's going to affect how you actually twist the coils to make them come out even, and we'll show you that in a moment. This rope right here that's twisted together as the old hemp and manila ropes were, this particular one is nylon, is referred to as mountain lay. Usually these are left-handed twists, as well as the jacketed thinner line and the thicker double jacketed nylon and core requirement different materials lines for specific purposes. There are some right hand lines out there, but usually they're all left hand twist. And what will happen is, as we begin to show you how they twist, when it doesn't twist and order itself, you know you've got a right-handed ladle line. But those are very, very rare. So let's start with our first coil. As we can see, this particular amount of line is exactly what you don't want, but what's found. You obviously cannot carry this very well. It won't pay off. So what are we going to do to remedy that? We're going to tie a coil. The first coil that we're going to learn is called the ground line hitch coil. This is where the left hand and the right hand twist will come in. You'll pay out your line, grab one end of it, like thus, and begin to make your coil. What you're going to see is if you put your coil straight up, your line will be twisted, which will not allow air to get in. Mold and mildew from moisture is a big deterioration factor with line. So every time we make a coil, what we're going to do, as you can see in my right hand, is twist it about a quarter of a turn before we place it in our hand. We'll make another loop, twist, and as a result of that, you can see how the coils lay flat. There's plenty of air in between them so they'll dry. And we continue doing that until we get to the end of the line. Make a loop, twist, make a loop, twist, make a loop, twist. When you get to about an arm's length of line left, you're going to take the end of the line and place it up in the hand that's holding the coil so that the two ends are together. Now you have one giant bite, which is a loop that's not crossed over. What you're going to do with this loop is throw it over the coil and pass it through the center. That bite will then go underneath the loop that you passed over and pass over and come through the coil a second time. As it comes up, it's going to go underneath the second wrap of the bite. And when this coil is dressed, that means fixing the knot so it's even, you'll see that gentle crisscross. Now you have the ground line hitch coil that has a loop so that you can attach this to any object you want to store the rope in. Now the beautiful part of this particular coil is that if we undo it, when we're actually going to use the line, we want to hold the original coil so it doesn't fall out of our hand, and we want to hold that original bite that we finished the coil with. Now this allows us to pay out this rope, which sometimes you have to do in camping, hauling, or boating, so that it pays out evenly, such as in like that. And as you can see, that's generally pretty straight and orderly. That's exactly the way we want it, so that we can use the line in any manner. If you have to throw it over an object, such as a tent or a rock if you're climbing, or tying something down in a vehicle, being able to throw it so it's not all tangled is one of the main features of this particular coil. Now, the second coil that we're going to look at today is actually best used for a line that does not have to pay out, as we just demonstrated. One of the beautiful things is it works very, very well with electrical cord. So what you're going to do with your electrical cord is, again, unloop it by grabbing both ends so that you can lay it out in a manner that's relatively straight. By holding both ends in one hand, just like we did with one end of the line for the ground line hitch coil, we're now going to tie the figure 8 coil. And we do this by the same method of making the coils. The twist method will not necessarily work with electrical line because of the way it's constructed. When we get a large bite left at the end, we're going to pass that bite all the way around once and through the initial coil. When we do that, it forms a figure 8, as you can see. Now you have a coil that will hold your electrical any place that you want. And again, this particular coil works well with something that does not have to be paid or thrown out quickly, such as in electrical, which usually has to be laid out before you begin work. The last coil we're going to look at is a coil of this particular rope is a larger piece, so I already pre-coiled it. You can see how all the coils in the actual gathering are about the same size, so they'll let air through and no mildew accumulate. You're going to leave both ends about the same distance, as you can see there and there. These are a little off, but that's pretty close. Ideally, you want them the same length. Now, what's going to happen is one line is on the bottom of the coil, while one line is on the top of the coil because of the way we wrapped it around our hand. So we're going to go back to the top and find the two ends, right like this, and tie ourselves a reef knot, which we'll go over later and that are in your textbook, just to connect them together so that we can begin to affix them the way that we want them out. Once you secure a loose knot in the actual coils, what you're going to be doing with these, this is going to turn the other lines so that they're both now going from the top down. They're going to be wrapped around the coil all the way down to the bottom. Holding the line together. We'll take the other side and do the exact same thing. Go around the coil, hold it together. The beauty of this coil is that obviously it will not pay out. This is designed for holding rope together if it's going to be stored for a relatively long period of time, such as in a trunk or in a shed or somewhere of that nature. This does not need to be paid out fast, but it does need to be thrown somewhere where it won't lose its shape and you'll still be able to get it out in some relative order. Once you get those lines wrapped snugly, you can go ahead and tie off any knot of choice. another